The Sun Belt schedule makers didn't do GJ Kinne and the Texas State Bobcats any favors. It's Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sun Belt. I am your host, Dave Schultz. Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. We will also discuss the Sun Belt Conference Tournament. We'll make our picks for the Tuesday ball games today. Coming up, you do have Coastal Carolina taking on Arkansas State and Texas State taking on Georgia State. The first game is at 5 p.m., I believe, Central Time. Coastal Carolina and Arkansas State, and then Texas State and Georgia State will play afterwards. Shockingly, they've allowed 2.5 hours for the time slot. Usually it's 2 hours, and it never starts on time. All right, so yesterday we talked about how South Alabama's schedule and team line up for them to make a New Year's six-day bowl run. Now, those questions will be answered very quickly, right? They could very easily lose to Tulane and easily lose to Oklahoma State. But if they come away with victories and beat Southeastern, they will be 3-0 and probably in the top 25 and just keep on going up the rankings as long as they win. Now, on the other hand, you got GJ Kinne's Texas State Bobcats. Malik Hornsby coming in as the transfer from Arkansas as the new quarterback, and this schedule is brutal. Just absolutely brutal. If I think I lost it, for Texas State. 4 of their first 6 games are on the road. The 2 home games are Jackson State. I know Dion's not there anymore, but Jackson State and Nevada. Or I think maybe Nevada. Either way, they start out at Baylor. Thank you. Then at UTSA, okay. Then you get Jackson State and Nevada, and then you're at Southern Miss, and you're at Louisiana. I'm sure Coach Kinne would look at it, well, that's a great opportunity. We can announce our presence with authority, like Nuke LaLoosh in Bull Durham. Except some of these teams are, dead red fastball hitters as well. So it'll be interesting to see GJ Kinne wanting to light up the scoreboard. And he's going up against pretty good defenses in Baylor and in Southern Miss. Will Hall will be into year 3. Dave Aranda. Is it year 4 already for Dave Aranda? And so we'll see if Baylor can get a little better next season as well. Now, then it gets easier. Obviously, if 4 of your first 6 games are on the road, then 4 of your final 6 games are at home. They do get ULM and Troy at home. Then Georgia Southern. They actually have a 3-game homestand. So, and an off week in there. So they don't go on the road for a month. Their road games, October 7th at Louisiana. Their next road game is November 11th at Coastal. But that's still at Coastal. And we'll see if that's Grayson McCall or not. That is, up in the air as of right now. I mean, let's rephrase that. Grayson McCall is back at Coastal Carolina. We'll see what happens post-spring practice and in the transfer portal if he's sticking around. Who knows? He tried it once. It did not work. So after at Coastal, then Texas State goes to Arkansas State. We'll see if some of those recruits, they've had a couple of good recruiting classes up there by Butch Jones. See if those guys can come around. And then they do host, Texas State does host South Alabama. So you have to figure one of the 2 things is going to happen. And we're presuming everybody's healthy, right? That quarterbacks stay healthy and, the teams are not ravaged with injuries. That South Alabama could have a magical season, but they got to go into San Marcos and, beat the Bobcats. Or Texas State could be looking, at the very least to be bowl eligible I'm sure Texas State and GJ Kinne would be looking at it as, well, this is a great opportunity for Texas State because they do not have, there is not really a cakewalk. I don't think now, obviously, Jackson State, all of Deion's players, including his kid, transferred to Colorado. But this is going to be tough. That is a tough way to start out. At Baylor, at UTSA, you do have 2 games at home, but then you're going to Southern Miss, which will not be an easy place to play, and then you're going to Lafayette to play the Cajuns. That is a brutal schedule to begin with for Texas State. Welcome to the Sun Belt. I was trying to go over and look at some other teams that had, going over all the teams' schedules. App State's got North Carolina. We don't really know about App State because we don't know about their quarterback yet, how good they're going to be. And we don't know about the Georgias. Georgia Southern's pretty good. Georgia State can be okay. Marshall has the experience and the defense. Army seems to be sprinkled into a lot of the Sun Belt teams again. So I was trying to find out, who has maybe an easier schedule. So far, even South Alabama's schedule is not easy. They have potential to do well with it, but it's not, I wouldn't say easy. And Texas State's is absolutely brutal. You look at James Madison, they play 1 home game in the first 4. They host Bucknell, then they're at Virginia, they're at Troy, and they're at Utah State. They do get South Alabama at home and Georgia Southern, then at Marshall, Old Dominion at home, at Georgia State, UConn, which was much improved last year under Jim Mora Jr., App State, and then at Coastal. So, the beginning of the season is just brutal for James Madison. Let's see about Troy, the defending champions, what they're looking at. They get Stephen F. Austin at Kansas State. They get James Madison week 3. Then Western Kentucky. I think they did a number on Western Kentucky last year, to be honest with you. And that's Austin Reed. And they did a big-time number on South Alabama in the bowl game, in the New Orleans Bowl. But I think they beat them last year. Yeah, they beat them 34-27. Yeah. Troy did a number on them. Let's see how that game went. Let's see what Austin Reed did here. Austin Reed, 39 of 56 for 406 yards, 3 touchdowns. Gunnar Watson didn't have that good of a ball game. 15 to 28, 202 yards, and an interception. Some turnovers here or something like that? Western Kentucky had 2 turnovers to Troy's 1. So Troy did stop Western Kentucky from running the football, 64 yards, and Troy rushed it for 135 yards. It's a relatively even ball game, to be honest with you. Time of possession was even. Yardage was in favor of Western Kentucky. Now, was this kind of having the ball last? Western Kentucky fumbled the ball away at the end of, with a minute left. They fumbled the ball away on the Troy 32-yard line. Whew. All right. That's how way that game ended. Okay. Anyways, the point is Texas State's going to have a tough go of it to begin with in the Sun Belt. So, and let's see Troy one more time. I didn't think their schedule was all that difficult. Depends on their QB play, and they are replacing a couple of key players. They're at Georgia State, Arkansas State, Army, at Texas State, South Alabama. They have 2 games on the road, and then they get 2 games at home. They don't have the toughest of all schedules. They do not. The November is not going to be easy. South Alabama, at Monroe, Cajuns, at Southern Miss. So, and before that, at Army and at Texas State. Army should have beaten Troy last year. They missed a field goal. That wouldn't have ruined anything for Troy outside of not having as many wins, but they still would have won the Sun Belt. All right, let's take a timeout. We will preview today's action in the Sun Belt Conference Tournament. It is tipping off in Pensacola. you do have Coastal Carolina taking on Arkansas State and Texas State taking on Georgia State. But before that, let me tell you a little bit about Built Bar. You're looking for a delicious treat but don't want to get all the fat and calories, then you got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat a little healthier this year. So far, mission accomplished, taking off the pounds. If you're like me where you want to eat healthier but don't want to compromise taste, then man, I've got the thing for you. You got to try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious, you won't think they're good for you. Perfect for your New Year's resolution. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that they're healthy. Only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's Club, which is where I get mine, run in and grab a 13-bar box with their hit flavors, brownie batter, churro. You can thank me later. They're good. They are really good. The problem is they can get it to me. You can eat them one too many, and the calories aren't a lot. Protein can be a lot. That's a lot of protein in a snack bar. All right, Dave Schultz back with more Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. We will also go over the all Sun Belt teams at the end of the show. Not sure there is a huge miss. Someone did mention maybe someone from ODU did miss, but didn't make it. But the first team, at least, was right up there. Okay, so first off is Coastal Carolina and Arkansas State. That is coming up at 5 p.m. Today, and we will be down there for that. And all of a sudden, don't look now, but Arkansas State is not playing too poorly. Like, they were bad for most of the season. Like, really bad. They had a bunch of guys hurt. They've won 2 out of their last 3. They beat Georgia State 75-70 a week ago, and they wrapped up the regular season with a 64-61 win over pesky Monroe. Even gave the Cajuns a little bit of a game, 85-74. They gave Troy a game, lost 67-62. A couple games before that, Texas State 66-62, which they lost. Now they did have a big win over Coastal Carolina, 73-57. And that win was only their second in the Sun Belt all season. They went from their first game in the Sun Belt, which was Old Dominion. They beat the Monarchs 60-57. They started out the season 9-5, 1-0 in conference play. And then when they beat Coastal Carolina, that made them 10-14 and 4-8 in conference play. That was rough. But, oh, no, I'm sorry. I read that wrong. I'm sorry. Arkansas State went to 2-10 in the conference and 10-15 overall in between their 2 conference victories, right? They were, 9-5, and they proceeded to lose 10 straight ball games before they won another one. Now, all of a sudden, they've won 2 out of their last 3, including, it's about a month ago already, right? When did they beat Coastal? Yeah, February 4th. I'm not sure how much you can take from that. It was a 15-point game. It's a while ago. I'm going to take Arkansas State in this ball game. As it turns out, Coastal Carolina has lost 3 in a row. They lost to Texas State by 3. They lost to Georgia Southern by 8, and they got hammered by Troy 95-74 to wrap up the regular season. Coastal is actually favored by 1.5. I presume it'll be a close ball game. Matchup predictor on ESPN.com has Coastal Carolina winning it 68% of the time. I'm going to take Arkansas State in this one. Presume they're getting a little healthier as they had a bunch of guys hurt. And all of a sudden they've won 2 out of 3 and are playing pretty good basketball, where Coastal is not. Coastal has lost 3 straight. On the other side of the bracket, when that ball game is done, you will get Texas State and Georgia State, not the way that either one of these schools wanted to play this season. They both just really struggled. Georgia State, Jonas Hayes, just a bad year for what is a perennial power in the Sun Belt. They went 20-10 this year. A lot of turnover. I get it. But they played Gonzaga in the NCAA tournament last year. They went 18-10. Didn't have a great season, but they won the conference tournament, and they're always there. They're usually always there, always having, double-digit wins, although the last few years they weren't all that great. 16 wins a couple games ago, a couple seasons ago, 19 wins last year. But they're generally a perennial power, and this year, 10-20 overall. And in the conference, I see 3 wins in the conference. That's a struggle. Yeah, 3-15 in the conference. That's a struggle. Texas State also, they were the regular season champs last year, and they just did not play well this season. Really pesky team with Mason Harrell on there, and they don't go away. The second to last game that South played this year was against Texas State, and it really should have been a 20-point ball game. And South Alabama had to hang on to win it 76-67. Texas State would just not go away. They gave Southern Miss all they could handle. They're really tough. They're really relentless. And, you're winning by double digits, and all of a sudden you look up and it's like a 4-point ball game. Mason Harrell, one of the better players in the league, and just kind of is smaller than Isaiah Moore, and you're wondering how he does it. He's listed 5'9", 145. He averaged 16 points a ball game this year. He's just a really good basketball player. One of those guys that you despise when he's on the other team, but you love to have him when he's on your team because plays more than 33 minutes a game. Was banged up a little bit. I think he got banged up in a game against Southern Miss and didn't come out to play the second half. And yet, Texas State gave Southern Miss all they could handle in that ballgame. So I'm going to go with Texas State in this ballgame. Texas State favored by 4.5, but oddly enough, only a 52% chancing that they're going to win. All right. So I'm not going to even try to figure out the matchup predictor on ESPN. All right. So let me get this straight. Coastal Carolina is a 1.5-point favorite, but they have like a 65% chance of winning or whatever I said it was. And Texas State is a 4.5-point spread, but only a 52.7% chance of winning. All right. So I got Texas State and I got Arkansas State, and we will be down there for the games on Tuesday. We're just going to go back and forth. I really think it's like get on the highway and 45 minutes to the exit. So it's a little further down after that to get down to the arena, but it's a rather straight shot. All right, let's take another time out. We'll come back and look over the all Sun Belt teams that were announced on Monday. Again, I don't think they got too much wrong. A lot of guys could have gotten the, newcomer of the year award. So that could be one place for argument, but it went to somebody who was deserving. All right. Again, thank you so much for continuing to subscribe and listen to the podcast and watch the podcast. I think we just had our best show ever. The South Alabama show was basically the best show ever. So we are continuing to grow. Please, if you see it on YouTube, like it. If you see it on Facebook, like it and share it. Really does help me out, helps out the podcast. And again, the more people who see it, the better chances that I have people who want to come on the podcast to talk about Sun Belt sports. Eventually, we will. Spring football is right around the corner, so we'll be doing that. But also, once basketball is over, then we can focus more on baseball, along with spring football and maybe a little softball. Cajuns, by the way, Raging Cajun softball did split with LSU. They gave the LSU Tigers their first loss of the season. That oddly enough, each visiting team won. Cajuns beat LSU in Baton Rouge, and then LSU returned the favor by beating the Cajuns in Lafayette. So again, thanks very much for tuning in. And if you would subscribe, it is much appreciated. All right, quickly, the all Sun Belt teams. See if I can find this maybe on my Twitter feed. Probably was in a email, but the 5 first teamers were the 5 leading scorers in the conference. I don't think that surprises anybody. Tavian Kinsey was the leading scorer in the conference, and he was your player of the year. No surprise there. Kevin Samuel was the defensive player of the year for South Alabama. Austin Crowley was the newcomer of the year from Southern Miss. Mike Handlogan, I'm not sure I'm getting that right. He's a freshman of the year from Marshall. 6th man of the year, Terrence Edwards from James Madison. And Joe Gottfried, coach of the year, was Jay Ladner from Southern Miss. 26 losses to 25 wins. I mean, you can't do much better than that. All right, all Sun Belt first team. Jordan Brown from the Cajuns. It was ridiculous against South Alabama on Saturday. Didn't miss his first 6 shots in the second half, something like that. Tavian Kinsey from Marshall, Andrew Taylor from Marshall, Isaiah Moore from South Alabama, and Austin Crowley from Southern Miss. Those are no surprises. All right. All Sun Belt second team, again with the names, Andre Savrazov from Georgia Southern, Terrence Edwards from James Madison, Greg Williams, local product from the Lafayette area for the Cajuns. Felipe Hassey, who had a big ball game against, I think it was ULM to wrap up the season for Southern Miss. And Zay Williams, who had a nice season for Scott Cross and Troy, made it. All right, all Sun Belt third team. Donovan Gregory from App State, Jamari Blackman from ULM, Chauncey Jenkins from Old Dominion. Kevin Samuel actually made all Sun Belt third team as well. DeAndre Pinckney had a good season from Southern Miss, and Mason Harrell from Texas State was 13. They actually had 6 guys on there. We did get a suggestion from Ted Alexander. I think he's the voice of the Monarchs. Of course, going to be a little biased, but that's okay. Always tough choices, but I would have found a spot for ODU's double machine, Mekhi Long, on that list as well. So, yes. So, obviously, it's tough to do that, and I'm certainly not going to say other than the 5 guys that got voted on there, and Mason Harrell, did see DeAndre Pinckney play, but going to be tough for me to suggest others who maybe I was not as familiar with. Again, the Hassey and the Zay Williams and the Greg Williams, very familiar with, and of course, Mason Harrell as well. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to Locked on Sunbelt. We will be at the Sunbelt Conference Tournament on later today, as it turns out. And then we get an off day, and then we come back on Thursday. South Alabama playing first thing in the morning. So we're looking forward to that as well. Again, thanks so much for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. And please continue to spread the word. We are having a blast doing Locked on Sunbelt, your team every day.